All right, moving on to step 6. This is kind of involved because they have you build the entire suspension piece, kind of like what we did in step 4 and step 5, and attach it directly onto the frame. So it's all one big build here. So let's get to it. First off, make sure you have your parts oriented correctly, and then you may have to look for any flash that's in here. So I've got them oriented so the pegs, the locating pins and the locating holes are equal. Kind of squish it together to get them to start working. Now, that said, it looks like this is pretty much asymmetric in both directions, but actually it's not. So what you want to do is you want to have the two holes that are on the one piece at the top, and you want the side hole to be facing away when you add the cover. I'm going to call it a cover. And make sure you put it on at the angle. So the tab goes in, it's got a bit of an angle, that's correct. And then add the knuckle. Like so. So there's that. We've got this. Now we're going to build this right here. Make sure you've got all your parts set up, and it goes like this. Take this part right here, and it may seem a little weird, but you're putting it on with the face going forward, like so. And then on the side here, that's where you put part D43. And that goes on with the part in the back slotting in. So it looks kind of like a little eyeball off to the side, but that's how it's supposed to be. And then take the part E45, make sure you find the orientation. I'm gonna glue up the inside. Oh, and I'm gonna drop that part, so there you go, first. One dropped part. Now you feel like you're modeling. Place that on. Parts are in place, and then, as talked about before, add the knuckle and in that orientation. So that said, now that can dry for a moment. Here's the parts. So this is where it comes in. Flip this around like so. As it shows, the smaller hole down there will be getting H3 and kind of an angle, and apparently it's a bit of a tight fit in there. but it goes in, and then D34 goes on top right here, and you'll notice that there's a offset tab that will go right in like so. Now you gotta let the glue start to tack up a bit, but there it is. And then going by this, we glue the other side of E25 right into this, and it goes pretty much straight up and down. So now we've got that portion set up. Now I want to let that set a little bit, so I'm going to go down here and start gluing on some of the side pieces that I can do while I'm waiting for that to set up just a little bit. So there's one, and for whatever reason the glue is flowing around in a lot of different directions here, and not, in other words, it's not staying where it belongs, even though I didn't run a lot of glue through. So I've put a little bit of glue on there, and now I'm adding a little bit extra. Gonna do the same thing with this as well. Make sure that it's really well positively seated. Little glue in there. Okay, those are done. Now coming back to this, it should have settled a bit. Got the two holes on the bottom. That's for the K22s. So there's K22, the first one. K22, the second one. A little bit of glue in there. Now that those pieces are on, and I'm looking, there's a little bit of flash on the top here, and these are the little things that, you know, glue will also melt and make it not quite so annoying. But until it does the melting, what do you do other than be frustrated? So I'm going to take this little part, and the important thing about this little part is that it's got this little tab on the one side and the two little pegs on the other, and the pegs are what you're supposed to have when it's all said and done, and it just goes on the side. It doesn't go on the top. And from what I'm seeing, it doesn't lean, although it looks like it leans in the instructions. So I'm gonna put it like that for just this moment and see if I can get a better view. It does not show it down here, and I don't see it in any of the other setups. So at this point in time, I'm going to put this on, and these go on this way with the bolts and the detail facing into the housing, as it were. Just trying to see and make sure that they are square to each other. And now we move on to adding these parts down here. This is a bit of a challenge as in the other steps. So we have this part now oriented like so, and this time they are going into these slots right here on the housing. And on here is where we put these air cylinder parts. It's nice because this is a lot more stable than on the other ones. And then yeah, you have to twist this forward or set it up right before. This gets to be another one of those I wish I had 17 hands kind of things. But if you get it all oriented right to begin with, it just slips right on and boom. And I'm going to put a little glue down there to maybe help grease that in for that last little bit. Put a little on here this time rather than putting it in straight up dry. And I'm going to look at the angle of this one to kind of get a feel for how close in that one should go. Kind of give a feel. And then again, slide that right in. Those pop right on, and then adjust as necessary. And like I said, yeah, you feel like you need 17 arms, but when it's all said and done, we're at this stage. So at this point in time, this time I remembered to leave the two little nubs, as it were, right there. It's important for the build. We found out in the last in the last setup. For this, I'm gonna put the glue in on the inside, like so, and like so. Just to glue that down without necessarily going to all the other stuff. As in, not letting the glue run into all the other places. So that seems to be good. Same with this one. The important part to me is that I found out and remembered to leave those nubs on. So when I put the H10s on in the next step, I actually have some nice positive alignment. It wasn't that bad to deal with in the last step or two. I can't remember if it was 4 or 5, but it definitely is going to help to not have to guess where they go. So here goes. Put the glue on, take the part, put it on. There we go. And that's taken care of. All right, take the part, put it on. All right. You know, and everything takes a little bit of work. But there's that. Done. So now we're down to the last 5 parts and the frame. So first things first, I'm going to take the rubber part. Remember, it's got a raised edge and that goes towards the back. Put that on, try and make sure that that is set up as you can see. Now, that said, I'm going to try and put these pieces on here like so without breaking anything. So, and we've had fun with this before. I want you to see this so that if you have troubles too, you know kind of sort of how I dealt with it. So this thing slid forward. I slid it on. Lots of parts in the way. Trying to find a good way to get an angle to get it to jump over the nub. I'm going to flip that over, just push until I get it on, and yeah, I may have to go back and put some parts back there. There we go. So I've got that. Now I've got to re-glue this part here and make sure that it's on right. And then I've also got to check my joint on K22, you know, on over here on this right here, the air canisters. Just, this is a very difficult build setup. It's too bad there isn't a better way to do this. And before I put any extra glue in or any other stuff, I'm gonna basically try and slip this one into. There we go, and that's slid on into place as needed. So now I've got this built, the hard part is done. I've got to decide what needs adjusting to get this set up. That's all good. That's all good. That's all good. Those look good. K22 parts look good. Alright, so I'm going to say that looks good. Now, if you don't want to necessarily do it quite this crazy, as I'll call it, you can also let this dry and then do the work. I'm just kind of moving things along for this step. And since this is going to go in here, and I know it's going to go in here, I'm going to shove it in. And there it is. There's a little bit of play, but not too much. And then I'm going to take this piece in the direction it's supposed to be. And you got to be careful you don't touch anything. What I'm going to do first is, now that I know where that goes, I'm going to put glue on the frame right there. Glue on the frame right there, just as placeholder, so to speak. Put this in the black grommet or shock absorber if you prefer, although I'm not 100% sure. But put it in there, set that in there. The whole thing is set. Hold on to this for a moment, and then I've got to take my part, and there's a little bit of movement, so I can kind of push this together, and then there we go. So I've done that. Now I'm going to look at my parts again. Is this straight and secure? Is this square and plumb and secure? And I'm going to take some more glue and just put it on the contact edges here to make sure that that gets in there and everything gets cemented up into the future. while this is drying, form a nice solid bond, check on my parts everywhere. You know, maybe you're not happy with how this looks now. Go back with a little bit of glue to make sure that it gets solidified. But now you've got, and that's the problem. Yep, don't let it jiggle out. But there's the setup right there. So that's step 6, and only 21 minutes. So I hope that helps you get through that bit of fiddliness, and see you for step 7.